the supernatural announcement concerning the birth of Jesus. After Jesus selected your broken planet on which he would accomplish his final self-giving, the Archangel Gabriel visited the earth. He studied the culturally developed peoples, as well as the spiritual, mental, and geographical aspects. He quickly discovered that the Hebrews possessed some advantages that justified their being chosen as the people for the self-donation. When Jesus had approved this decision, Gabriel appointed a family commission of 12 and entrusted them with the task of investigating Jewish family life. When this commission had completed its work, 3 households were nominated, all 3 equally favorable as families in which the self-donation of the intended incarnation of Jesus could take place. From these 3 nominated couples, Joseph and Mary were finally chosen. Jesus wanted to grow up as an ordinary person on earth so that ordinary people could understand and accept him. For this reason, the Archangel Gabriel chose 2 ordinary people to become the parents of the promised child. Joseph and Mary met when Mary's father was remodeling his house and hired Joseph the carpenter to do it. Their courtship began when Mary brought a cup of water to Joseph on a hot day when he was taking a break. After a courtship period of nearly 2 years, they married according to Jewish custom at the home of Mary. Joseph was then 21 years old, and they moved to their new home in Nazareth. Joseph possessed a gentle character. He was conscientious and faithful in every respect to the religious practices of his people. It can rightly be said of Joseph that he was a Hebrew among Hebrews. He had a carefree childhood, but in the early years of his marriage, he experienced periods of spiritual despondency. This improved when his family's economic position advanced, as he had worked his way up from ordinary carpenter to prosperous contractor. From Joseph, Jesus received his strict education in the customs of Jewish ceremonies and his extraordinary knowledge of the Hebrew Scriptures. Mary's temperament was entirely the opposite of her husband's. She was usually cheerful, with a sunny nature. Mary often and boldly expressed her feelings and emotions, and no one, before Joseph's sudden death, ever saw her sad. She had hardly recovered from this shock when she had to deal with the worries and questions that arose from the extraordinary life of her wonderful firstborn son, of whom she understood so little. Mary was a good homemaker, and she knew excellently how to create a domestic atmosphere. Joseph and Mary were both wise educators, and they made sure that their children were well educated in the knowledge of those days. These young parents-to-be had no idea who the personality of their eldest child really was. Nor were they ever aware of all those spiritual beings from all over the universe who watched their family for years with a sacred interest. Even though the incarnation of Jesus in the body of a mere mortal was one of the greatest events in the history of your universe, people on earth did not notice. There were 2 supernatural angelic apparitions prior to his birth, and as far as we can ascertain with certainty, there were at least 3 special dreams. The angelic appearances were of the supreme Archangel Gabriel to Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, and to Mary, the mother of Jesus. Both fathers later had a dream, and in Mesopotamia, a priest dreamed that a child of light would be born among the Jews. Possibly many more truth-seekers in those days had such dreams, but as far as we can tell, none of them took action on it by going looking for him. Furthermore, no special supernatural events occurred around his birth. Jesus was simply conceived in a natural way. Only centuries later did mythical stories arise about Mary's virginity. We do not know where the divine plan was set, but with great certainty, we know that John the Baptist was called by God even before his birth to to prepare the souls of the ordinary Jews for the message of Jesus. This is very special. There has been no mortal for whom heaven had such a great calling as for John the Baptist. Zachariah, John's father, belonged to a lineage of priests. His mother Elizabeth was related to Mary. They were childless. Toward the end of June in the year 8 BC, about 3 months after the marriage of Joseph and Mary, Gabriel appeared to Elizabeth at noon on a certain day with the following message: "I am the Archangel Gabriel, and I have come to bring you the good news that you will soon give birth to a son. It will be a special boy. He will be the herald of the divine teacher. Name him John, and raise him with devotion to the Lord your God. And when he becomes an adult, he will gladden your hearts, because he will show many souls the way to God. He will announce the coming of the liberator of all mankind. Your niece Mary, who lives in Nazareth, will become the mother of this child of promise." This apparition greatly frightened Elizabeth. For a long time, she considered the words of the supernatural visitor, but except with her husband, she spoke of it to no one. When Elizabeth told her secret of Gabriel's visit to her husband, Zachariah was highly skeptical, and for weeks he questioned the whole experience. He could only come to give wavering credence to Gabriel's visit when he could no longer doubt that she was expecting. About 6 weeks before the birth of John, Zachariah became completely convinced by an impressive dream that Elizabeth was to become the mother of a son, who would prepare the way for the coming of the Messiah. John was born on March 25th of the year 7 BC. From his earliest childhood, John was sensibly instilled by his parents with the thought that he would grow up to become a spiritual leader or a religious teacher. And John's heart was always receptive soil for this suggestive seed being sown. One evening in November of the year 8 BC, Gabriel suddenly appeared to Mary. Mary was home alone, and when she had recovered from shock, the archangel spoke, "To you, Mary, I bring glad tidings. You are pregnant with a son. You shall name him Jesus, and he shall usher in the kingdom of heaven on earth and among men. Do not speak of this except to Joseph and your kinswoman Elizabeth, to whom I have also appeared, and who will also soon bear a son, whose name will be John. Do not doubt my words, Mary, for this house has been chosen for the child with this special destiny. My blessing will be with you. The power of the Most High will strengthen you, and the Lord of all the earth will overshadow you." Mary was confused by the apparition, and soon she thought that it had been a real-life dream. Only a few weeks later, when she noticed that she was pregnant, did she dare tell her husband about this supernatural event. When Joseph had heard all this, he became alarmed, and for nights he could not sleep. At first Joseph doubted the authenticity of the angelic apparition, and he reconciled himself to the idea that his wife Mary would become the mother of an extraordinary child only when he had a very impressive dream. In this dream, a brilliant heavenly messenger appeared to him, saying, among other things, "Joseph, I appear at the command of him who now reigns on high, and I am instructed to tell you that your son, who will soon be born, will become a great light in the world. In him will be life, and his life will become the light of mankind. To all those who will accept him, he will reveal that they are children of God." After this dream, Joseph never doubted Mary's account of Gabriel's visit. He realized that his unborn child would become a divine messenger. From then on, Joseph was inwardly torn as he thought about how such things could exist. How could a child of human parents be a child of divine destiny? Joseph could not reconcile these conflicting thoughts until, after several weeks of reflection, he and Mary both came to the conclusion that they were chosen to be the parents of the Messiah. Had Joseph remained alive, no doubt he would have come to believe in the divine mission of his eldest son. In Mary's life, faith and doubt alternated. She was greatly influenced by the views of her other children and what other people said about him. But when she finally determined her attitude, she was always strengthened by her memory of the appearance of Gabriel. When Mary was sure she would become a mother, she persuaded Joseph to let her go on a journey to visit Elizabeth. The Archangel Gabriel had informed each of these two expectant mothers regarding his appearance to the other. Needless to say, they were eager to see each other. Mary stayed with her distant cousin for 3 weeks. Thanks to Elizabeth, Mary's faith in Gabriel's apparition grew stronger, so she returned home with an even greater devotion to her calling to become the mother of the child with a special destiny. Gabriel's announcement to Mary was the only supernatural event associated with the whole experience of her bearing and giving birth to the child.